Okay, is that where the Grand Inquisitor sits?
The bullfighter and the bull.
Well, I think you left a word off bull, but I won't fill it in. I'll let the audience use their imagination.
Well, Charles, for me, after reading the book, to understand, I could relate to the book. I grew up in Tijuana, reported in San Diego and Tijuana, and had a chance to follow some Border Patrol agents right there on the linea. They did a drug bust. Actually, the big bricks of I don't remember whether it ended up being marijuana or what were in the back seat, and there were all kinds of stickers, evangelical Christian stickers on the car. The way they found out, or the tip, what led them to inspect that car, was that the woman, the female driver, her vein was like pumping. So they stopped it. So that's one of the stories I did. To understand this book, I'm thinking to myself, because I've been in LA for a while, what if a lieutenant with the Pasadena Police Department was gunned down with his kid? What if a whole division from Camp Pendleton ended up working for the Bloods and the Crips? What if a LA Times reporter was unemployed because he wouldn't take money from the Avenues gangs? That, to me, that's what just changed the agency names, and that's what's happening in Ciudad Juarez. That's the world they're living in, right?
And increasingly much of Mexico. It's systemic. That Americans, and particularly American policymakers, like to imagine we have to fix things by an adjustment. We will send experts down, like Giuliani went down there, and they will give a few lectures on security and police, and then it's fine. It reminds me of a conversation, not on Mexico, but on Iraq, I had with Senator John McCain in his office in the summer of 2002. And he said, Chuck, look, we can change Iraq into a parliamentary democracy in less than 5 years. And I remember leaning forward, because I'm a friendly guy, and saying, will you share your drugs? And he sincerely believed it, because he thought these cultures were plastic. Now we have Secretary Clinton, Secretary Napolitano, a whole plane full of people you pay for, flew to Mexico City and said we're going to help them with their justice system. As if, they're illiterates and had never read about other legal systems. I mean, this is preposterous. But the example you give is realistic. How would the people in this audience react if they lived in that reality? People come up to me and tell me cops are corrupt in Chicago. I spent part of my childhood and adulthood there. It's true. But it isn't like Juarez. Yeah.
One of the things you do really well is you paint portraits of the people that you meet there, and that's who we meet along the way. I'd like you to read the prologue, which is a really good setup to this trip that you take.
That's kind. I always like a prologue that's a good setup.
Jeffrey Chaucer did a good job, didn't he?
Okay. Here's the deal. We're going to take us a ride. Now be quiet. Time's up. You got a ride. We brought the duct tape. Do you prefer gray or tan? No matter. Get your ass in. We got the plastic bag, the loaded guns. You've been waiting? Everyone is waiting. But our list is so long. Everybody pretends we will never come. But everyone is on somebody's list. Well, for you, the wait's over. Let me tell you about a killing season. What? You don't like violence? I understand. But get in the car. You say it is hard to see because of the darkly tinted windows? You learn darkness. Miss Sinaloa is a detail. She was special, so fine. Of course, she took the ride. My God, what a ride. Okay, yes, there is the matter of cocaine and whiskey insanity that might undercut her standing in the community. See those people on the street pretending you don't exist? This big machine with tinted windows doesn't exist, pretending that none of this is happening to you? That was you until just a few minutes ago. Now, 14 people were executed in Juarez yesterday. It isn't on the news here. They never existed. It never happened, except to them. There you go. I love crib sheets, you know. Thank you.
Charles, who is Miss Sinaloa?
Miss Sinaloa is actual. In my past, I have many pasts. I covered sex crimes for a daily paper for 3 years. I quit 3 times. The third time I succeeded, I broke down. And you never use the name of a victim of rape. But I know her name. She was actual. She came, they grow beauty queens like trees in Sinaloa. All the drug guys want their girlfriend to be a beauty queen. So they have lots of contests, and guess who wins? You know. She won a beauty contest. She was invited to a big private party in Juarez. She flew in. Nice-looking woman. And she goes to the party, and she's raped for 3 days and 3 nights by the police. And she has scars on her breasts and everything, and she loses her mind. I think that's the reason she's alive, why she wasn't just killed. That insanity, you know, sort of spooked them. So they took her out to a place on the edge of the city, an insane asylum built by a man named El Pastor Jose Antonio Galvan. He is a former drug addict in Juarez, a large man. He'd lived on the streets. He'd heard the call to Jesus. He'd moved out there with a burro in the sand and started building an asylum for people like himself. So he takes everyone in. He has 100, 120 people there. There's no water. There's not really electricity. There's no medicine. I donate money and other people do to feed these people. These are people who will never come back. Their brains have been destroyed by glue, by beatings. There's go-go dancers out there and lap dancers or out of their skull. They are the scars of what the city can do to people.
What does a facility look like? Are these?
It looks like it's a big walled thing built by him, by hand. It's not quite Frank Lloyd Wright, you know. And he's got a knight in shining armor on it because that's his vision. And he's got cells for the really violent people before he detoxes them, which he's made out of rebar and welded. He prays for me to save my soul, and he's building a cell for me, he tells me, because he said, you will come here eventually. He takes care of Miss Sinaloa, and she slowly comes back. And she falls in love with a crazy guy there and thinks God has made this, has let this happen to her so she would meet this guy. And then her family comes. He finds her family, El Pastor, in Sinaloa. They come and take her away. Now, I used her in the, I don't really like metaphors because I can never remember the definition. They're not similes, though. My God, I remember getting hit. She becomes, for me, what the city does. People come there. This city for 40 years has recruited the poor to work in American factories, to have the American dream. And these people, most of them have been destroyed. Since the early to mid-'80s, the wages in the American-owned factories, which are called maquiladoras, have in constant pesos or dollars declined. You know, and now Juarez has lost 100,000 jobs because these greedy devils in these factories are getting paid 4 times what the Chinese pay. So 100,000 jobs went to China. Forbes published this. The problem with Mexico is the wages are too high. The wages in Juarez in a factory, if you get a job, are $45 to $75 a week. The turnover is 100 to 200% a year. The cost of living is 90% of what it is in the U.S. Do the math. You want the job? We can help you.
At one point, you say that in talking about the murders of women, the femicides, as they're known now,